they realized that it was dissolving the entire model of what cosmology has been throughout the 20th century. Because what it's really saying, this discovery, less than 6 months old, is that space itself is in the act of exploding, that the universe is on the cusp of an inflationary phase of expansion similar to the inflationary expansion that occurred at the time of the Big Bang. What would this look like? What would it feel like? Nobody can even imagine. It is not upon us. I don't mean that. But I mean that in the near future of the universe, in the next billion or 2 billion years, things will change very, very dramatically. Everything will begin to rearrange itself according to the expression of this asymptotic power. So that was the biggest news in astrophysics. The other news, which has psychedelic implications, I think, also comes from astrophysics. As you may recall, last August, I think it was, I can't remember exactly, every man, woman, and child on Earth got the equivalent of a dental X-ray when there was a thing called a starquake on a magnetar, a magnetic neutron star 20,000 light years away, experienced a catastrophic collapse, and there was a wave of gamma rays that were turned on every light in the system when it hit the planet. And an event like that had never been observed before. And I got to thinking about this, and I realized, we've only been looking for this kind of thing for 30 years. There's probably quite a bit of this kind of anomalous, high-energy, short-duration fluctuation of radiation going on in the galaxy. And then I had a kind of an image, I wouldn't say a vision, but a kind of an image of how things are really arranged on the larger level in terms of the galaxy. And the image was of a donut. And we're accustomed to being told that we're out at the edge of the Milky Way, where stars are few and far between. That this is the boonies, in other words. But I'll bet you the boonies are where biology thrives, because the low star density and the distance from the galactic core and these extremely energetic events at the core would create a kind of donut situation, where it's the toroidal area out near the rim where stars are slow burning and they don't collide with each other and planets can form, and you get the 5 billion year run you need to get to civilization. But a rule of biology and strategy and everything and religious practice, as far as that's concerned, is seek the light. Well, the light is at the core. And so then I saw, maybe the true seeking of the light requires biology to go into partnership with something beyond biology, because the environment at the core is so energetic. And I'm not suggesting the actual core, that's beyond contemplation. That's a black hole, no technology imaginable.
That's right. Control. Something's going on. Something's going on. Okay. Well, it's good that we're doing this because it's fun, you know? So much fun. Okay, I think it's working.
Yeah, I wish. Nice. Did you use the audio interface last time, or were we doing it without it?
We did it without it. Hello.
Yeah, I think that's probably just what we need to do. And the live stream is going to be about 10 seconds behind what we actually do. So if we like continuously talk, then that's the only real way that we'll be able to know. But was that like you trying to get the mic into it? Yep, there we go.
Knives. Zrifschlands Meisar, Thisar Minov.
There we go. You think they'll infinity voice you? Like the stream's gonna hear you talk out of the stream, and then the stream, like, do you think that could happen?
Oh, is that why it's doing it? Because I'm playing it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. I think it's working.
It's working. Oh yeah, we're on. We're live. 3, 2, and boom, we're live.
Oh, we're like 8
How's it
minutes.
going?
8 minutes.
I wonder how many people have clicked on and off the stream.
I think like one. But yeah, 8 minutes. That was 8 minutes.
Nice. That's a solid 8 minutes.
If you go back, there was some Terrence McKenna accidentally.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So there's this guy at my job who's an anthropology and classics major, and I tried talking to him about Terrence McKenna, and he was kind of just like completely shot it down. Like, wasn't even interested in like dipping.
Well, did he do any like kind of reading or anything?
He's in school for it. I was telling him about Food of the Gods, and Food of the Gods was theorizing, and he was just like, "Oh, okay, yeah, one of those guys."
He just heard of him already? Heard of those guys?
Yeah, he just called him one of those guys.
He'd already heard of those guys.
Huh?
He'd already heard of those guys.
Well, I just explained like his theory, and he was just like, "Oh, you mean a guy that's telling us something other than what the government is trying to tell us?"
Yeah.
Funny, because I'm being taught anthropology by the government, and the government says that all of that stuff is bullshit. Stay away from drugs.
Yeah. You should check out the podcast that I sent you. It's really cool. One of the, like, I just wrote...
Yeah, the Dennis McKenna one?
No. It was 2 days ago. I don't know who one of the hosts is, but it's O'Teal, I think is his name that he goes by, and he's the bassist currently with Dead and Company. I actually saw him play in San Francisco like 3 years ago now.
Okay.
I'm still grappling with this display on Google Chrome. It's going to be weird, man. There's a lot of infinite displays going on. But anyway, so yeah, it's O'Teal and Paul Stamets and Bob Weir. And one of the things that
Right. Yeah, that's what you sent to me right before.
Yeah. One of the things that Paul Stamets says, and I have a bunch of stuff written down, but one of the things is that if you play like low frequencies, he said extremely alters and makes it go faster with mycelium growth, like when it's in that stage. Something about the resonance of the mycelium. It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Okay. About the resonance of the mycelium. Pretty cool.
Hello.
Hey. This is hilarious because I can't look at the stuff on my computer. I have to have no, because it's a screen capture. So it's just kind of funny. It's like it's just this is our. It's just corner of your face.
It's just a corner of my face. I can only see half of your face.
Okay, see what this does.
I think one of the main issues is that I'm in my basement, and a basement that probably doesn't have the greatest connectivity.
Okay, I think we're good. Let's try this for a little bit.
Nice.
Okay.
Do you think aliens touched Earth before humans?
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Yeah. What's like? Is it like the pyramids and how they're in like really good astrological placements? And the whole technology thing, or what makes you think, or is it just like obviously the world's been around for millions and millions of years? Clearly, some other like intelligent life form must have been here.
It's just one of those things. Whenever people bring up those types of questions, like where are the aliens, I always think it's like, well, I'm kind of on board with the alternative being pretty. It's kind of like atheism, That's a pretty drastic claim. I don't know if people know how drastic that is. Atheism. I feel that way with aliens. It's like the way that I see it would be that it's kind of like the whole Christ thing,
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a pretty good chance that's a metaphor. I don't know if he was a real guy or even anything. Like I don't even know what that is. I wasn't there. I haven't studied the Bible. I read Revelations, but that's like science fiction,
Wait, why did you read Revelation?
Well, it reads kind of like a trip or something. It reads like a story. It's crazy. And like Numbers, is that Leviticus, I think? You ever go in there?
Mm-hmm.
People's like laundry lists and grocery lists and stuff. And how much of this and everything. They had it all written down.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I don't really know why, other than that they thought they were doing something really important. But my idea is like, so if it is a metaphor, then there's like the man and there's God of man, right? And
Okay.
like there's all these creation myths and indigenous traditions of kind of like the way that they say it. It's like sky people and kind of like you said, the pyramids, but I think it's the pyramids were up for as long as they have been a ruin. Like they were in usage for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
And like people like Elon Musk will be like, everything, like there's something he said in this recent February 11th podcast with Joe Rogan where he's like everything stacks up or something like that. He's like everything's aligned, the geological record, there's no anomalies, this and that. And that was one of the main off-putting points. There's a lot of off-putting points he made. I mean, there's a lot of, good stuff in there. Obviously, I'm not trying to put them down, but that was kind of off-putting. Because I was thinking, like, well, what about all the stuff that I've learned about that you can't really explain? So I was like, maybe I'm just like looking for stuff that I can't explain, you know. But yeah. So then I guess I'm just saying back to the aliens thing. It's like whether or not they're coming down here, I feel like we're communicating with the higher consciousness off Earth, and that might be what consciousness is, period, and what we're channeling or whatever you want to call it. So the idea of that then is that aliens are suddenly this. It doesn't really make sense. It's like Terence McKenna's psilocybin mushrooms are from space. It's like, oh, wait a sec. If you play that game, it's like a thought experiment game, and now you're like looking at it from this perspective, and you realize that actually, like, things are much stranger than we can suppose, and we're not going to be able to just say, like people keep saying, oh, they're over the Pentagon, they're over the Capitol, they're here. Like they've probably, like people say, like they're obviously pretty timid. So that's where you start to think it's just like a bunch of fairy tales, you know?
Yeah. I'm not so sure that like aliens have been here before. Quite honestly, I don't think so. Back to like the pyramids and the astrological symbols. I think like throughout even literature, like and through like classical mythology and all of that genre, like very, very old literature, like thousands of years old, like
Hermetic mysticism.
Yeah, like ancient Greek mythology and like ancient Irish mythology and everything. That one thing that I found in common was the gradual degradation of mankind. So in almost every single, like in what is it, the Iliad, Agamemnon and Hercules and all of those people, like when the muses would talk about them, they would talk about, hundreds of years ago a man would have been able to pick up this boulder, but the men now can no longer do that. And there's a constant implication of the degradation of mankind and the idea that human beings have actually become like worse and worse over time. And so what I think has happened is we've hit technically like an intellectual peak. We've already hit our intellectual peak. There just wasn't enough time in order to use the intelligence that we've had. So something as like seemingly simple as the pyramids, you can think about like what actual technologies were innovated at the time and how incredibly intelligent you would actually have to be in order to construct something that precise and that functional and that like huge. And so we've already been the smartest we can be.
Yeah.
And now it's just as we're getting dumber, but we have more time with the resources and everything. So what's happening right now is everything is increasing exponentially, like innovation is increasing exponentially, but it's going to taper off, and then eventually it's just going to degrade. And whether we're in a state of like hitting the top of that peak, I'm not necessarily sure. I mean, we have people becoming millionaires for dancing on TikToks. Like, how fucking stupid are humans nowadays, Like...
Well, it's like fame has become meaningless, or it's become so, what's the word, like gentrified or something. No, that's not the right word. Fame has become meaningless.
Yeah.
Because
it's become
anyone
normal.
can do it,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's caused, like, this really weird thing where I feel like, do you know Star Trek? Like,
I've only seen one VHS.
VHS, yeah. I don't know much about the show, but what I do know is that technically, or what I've been told by somebody, is that technically none of them actually have jobs that make them money. They all voluntarily do what they're doing, and they all mine cryptocurrency. And so none of them actually have to do anything that they're actually doing. And so, like, I think that might almost be some pretty good foresight into what's going to happen. Like, fame is becoming almost like the analogy of cryptocurrency in Star Trek, where money is just going to be something that everybody has, because everybody has a very easy outlet in order to get it.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but the only thing that I will say is that when I said it's meaningless and it's easy to be famous, then this like internal dialogue went on, and I thought, well, wait a sec, like I can't just go out and do that, you know. And I have the resources, which makes me a small percentage. The ability to do a YouTube live stream or any kind of TikTok or any of that, you kind of have to have a little bit of like something going for you. Maybe I think what percentage of people have a YouTube account? It's a pretty small percentage, you know. So in that way, it is this weird call to action where you're like, oh wait, I'm one of those people. Like, might as well, like, you know, make a radio station.
yeah.
But you were saying people are getting stupider or like getting less intelligent?
I think people are getting less intelligent. We've just had more time to discover things that are, you know, within our intelligence range. You know? So it's like, if you give some dude a hammer and some wood, or if you give a dude like a hammer, some nails, and a saw, and he goes out and he builds a piece of shit, like, you know, bushcrafty kind of like rain falls through it and everything like that, but like sturdy, you can live in this shed. And then you give some dude like power saws and drills and like a whole team of like people who will do whatever the fuck he says and all these papers to write out blueprints with graded, like, you know, which one is going to take more intelligence? Like, there's more intelligence and research backed behind the large project where he has, you know, 100 people to do whatever he wants with like 8 people getting together and like calculating the physics and everything. But I would be more impressed with the dude who just had a hammer, a saw, and some nails and went out into the fucking woods and built himself a house, you know?
Well,
like,
you know,
I would put him on a higher pedestal than any one of the people on the team, you know?
Yeah. Well, and the reason is because it turns out that if you're willing to, say, sacrifice relationships, which is a big sacrifice, but you don't have to do that, you can live by yourself and farm in the right parts of the world, you know? But, yeah, it's cool. It's kind of like saying the living par of, like, being a human. A lot of us are trying to be like this thing, but really it's like clean water, clean air, and shelter. That's what we're supposed to have, and we don't have that. Or food, main one, you know, clean food. So
yeah, we're destroying ourselves.
Not doing so well, and then we're doing all this other stuff, you know.
Yeah, like, I think we're pinning intelligence on technological advancement instead of a legitimate quality of life.
Yeah.
And, like, technological advancement seems to have a direct link to quality of life. Like, yeah, I love that I shit in a toilet, and then I press a button and I don't have shit in my house anymore. That's awesome.
But people with composting toilets, a lot of people who have composting toilets aren't contributing to that wastewater. And that is, here's the thing, this is where it gets silly, is, like, I had a composting toilet for about a year. And I didn't like it at all. Because I didn't have time. I was busy going to school, you know, and practicing.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, now that I've watched a lot of tiny home videos and people who travel and people who live off the grid and stuff, they use the same brand. That composting toilet. It's like Nature's Head or something. And so, like, I've kind of realized, like, that's the standard, man. And, like, really, so, like, you don't want to take care of your poop and your waste, you know. But if you do, and then you look at what it does, it's not profound that you're, because it's like voting, like, in that sense, it doesn't feel profound, because you're just one, you know? But it's such a profound realization when you realize you're not contributing to all the water in the toilet. It's like a weird, like, we're prioritizing that over the water we put in ourselves, you know?
Yeah.
It's more important.
And yeah, like, there's that classic meme, you know, like, there's the skeptical African boy meme or something like that, where it's like, it always starts out with "you're telling me." And the one that got me the most was, like, when he's looking at, you know, the lady in the picture, and he's like, "So you're telling me you guys poop in perfectly clean water?" You know? And
I
it's
think
like,
about that all the time.
That kind of made... Sorry, go ahead.
I totally think about that. Like, kind of...
Yeah.
sentiment.
And like one thing that's even kind of cooler is like, oh, there's a nail under this table that I just kind of not bleeding, but nice. Honestly, I would say that saving your poop and composting your poop is way more powerful than any vote.
That's what I'm trying to say here. Yeah, it's like your only vote in lots of ways. And what's cool is that that's one thing, but you can't really use poop for food, but you can use it for flowers.
Yeah.
But you can use your pee for like all kinds of like nitrogen stuff for lots of plants.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into the permaculture and like gardening and agriculture, like organic agriculture and farming and all that,
Mm-hmm.
that is just as profound and strange because you're not dipping into the food like objects, the food memes, the Big Macs that look like food, taste like food, but they're just kind of like filler and they're like plastic and
don't burn when you pour 10,000 degree molten lava on them. It just bounces right off.
Don't age.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. What's crazy is like, I think you know this about me. I don't vote. I don't like. I consider myself a bit of an anarchist in the sense that I don't like supporting like political identities or political movements or anything like that. And everybody always thinks like, oh well, you can't complain, or like, how are you going to expect anything to change? Or like, that's so privileged of you. How could you not vote? Like, there's so much shit going on. You got to do. And it's like, okay, I've dedicated many, many parts of my life to causes that I think are serious issues. The main ones being like the environment, social change, and overconsumption in general. And I've made that to be like a regular part of my life. Whereas I feel like so many people feel like, oh, I voted, now I can just fucking go eat McDonald's and shop on Amazon all year.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that I think is a really common misconception that's like kind of been pissing me off for like the last 2 years. That like people think that they can just vote, and then they're like, okay, I did my civic duty. My purpose is fulfilled, so now I can just like dive into the disgusting American culture that we all indulge in for the rest of the year and not care because I voted for a dude who said he cares about black people, you know?
And it's all about what they actually do, not what they say they're going to do.
Or they hate Jeff Bezos, but they still buy... Hey. Sorry. I'm talking right now. Sorry.
Right, so change, just end it.
Yeah, just to change the time. Alright.
No worries.
Alright.
Alright, what happened there?
A breach of privacy that we had previously discussed, but that's all good.
You had...
You think I should tell her that she was being recorded? And that she's on the internet now?
We can edit out audio. So... Wow, this is pretty profound. Okay. Yeah, it's weird because of the... For me, what's really like stand out is that it flips back and forth. You know?
Yeah.
Like, Democrat, Republican, and people get onto this like pro wrestling style, like cheering on the opponent, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess I just worry that it's like a lot of it is like oddly predetermined, and not even necessarily in like a weird way where someone's predetermined it, but like predetermined in like the flux of ideas, like your parents' views, the ideas flowing, like you don't really have. So like my thing is like kind of like how much, like you know how I sent you that piece of paper?
Yeah.
That thing weighs about, I think it's 18 ounces or something, or grams? Ounces it must be. Must be 18 ounces. I think it's like 28. Okay, I don't know. I forget the numbers, but it's under the legal limit. So you can just use one stamp. And like how often do you send out letters? Cuz all you got to do is put a stamp and then write the stuff on it, you know?
Yeah.
Like I never do that.
Me neither. I never send letters either.
So it's kind of like voting. It's like, well, I mean, why wouldn't you? You know, a good reason is like because of COVID-19, you don't want to be out and about. A good reason is because you don't want to vote for either of them because they're both evil. You know, good reasons, all you know, this and that. But it does make me feel sometimes like just partaking as as an able voter. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
It's not a very optimistic feeling, and I think that the optimism comes from knowing self-sufficiency, you know, and that's where the anxiety of a city comes from, is rent and all this stuff. Like when you're squatting in a house or when you're sleeping in someone's property as a homeless person, you're kind of reenacting or enacting that ancient feeling of predators and sleeping. Am I safe here? Keeping people on watch for leopards, you know, like stuff like just weird stuff when you're traveling through large pieces of wilderness, or just where you live and keep your food, and wolves come every night and bears come, and that's like an old feeling of fear. And so if you can take the indigenous perspective which isn't even necessarily the right word, like I don't even know if these are the right words, but before the time of a certain contact and change where one of the sides completely just obliterated the other, which has been happening throughout human history forever, you know, in small ways that weren't known, or really small ways between families, feudal societies, and all this. But as soon as that happened, we entered like a new kind of realm of like, you're saying like we got kind of stupid, like idiocracy, you know. But the idea is now we have, like Elon Musk is putting up worldwide Wi-Fi from satellites. So you could pay him for anywhere. You could be out in some island in the Great Lakes, or you could be out in some island in South Pacific, or anywhere. And you could have a podcast, or you could have anything, and you could live in a grass hut that is protected by like bamboo or trees, and you don't have any fear of predators. Like theoretically, you don't know all the things, but we do as individuals have that right to say, well, the ultimate vote would be leaving the United States and going somewhere else that you like. But I don't know. It's a hard call. I kind of feel like maybe it's where you're born, you're supposed to be in some ways, you know.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I'm still tripping that my mom down here.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely like hilarious, but
yeah, it was.
What happened there? Like, you had plans?
Yeah, so they were like coming back from up north.
Oh.
And basically, what was going on was I was at Kelsey's parents' place, and we were Kelsey wanted to like cook dinner for them or something like that, and so I was like asking them like, hey, when are you guys gonna be home? We can have dinner ready for you. Like we wanted to have dinner ready for them when they came back, because last time they came back it was like at 6:30 or something, and but they came back at like 2:00, you know, and so what I thought was going to be a nice thing, and like having dinner ready for them when they came home became like, oh, well, you guys are like home now, you know.
Yeah.
And now, well, now Kelsey's hanging out with the team. They're watching the Iron Giant together.
Upstairs?
Oh. No, they're at Kelsey's house now.
Nice. So what are you doing today? Are you just hanging out?
Yeah, no, I'm just hanging out. This is my day off. I work the next, like, I don't know, 6 days or something.
Nice.
But I went to my apartment and got everything to bring over here. So I found that I do enjoy it here a lot more than my apartment, aside from, I guess I just have a little less privacy. Like, at my apartment, I have privacy, but not alone time. So, like, right now, I feel completely alone. Like, there's no noises anywhere. Like, I couldn't even hear my mom walking behind me. Like, could you see her when...
I don't remember. It was a blur. Do you want to... Let's take a couple minutes here. I'm going to put the stream onto Not Our Faces.
No, that's cool.
So now it's just an infinite screen.
Nice. There we go. But yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay, okay. Are you recovered?
I think so.
Okay. So real quick, I just want to give you a little PSA. Can I give you a PSA?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, are you feeling like you want to continue with this time usage style? This particular usage of time?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anything you want to do, really.
Anything you want to do, you know, really. I'm thinking I should probably do a really quick sound check.
Word.
So what I'm gonna do is, let's see, FaceTime. Now you're on, so I can see your face. Okay, let's make some noises. Like, you'll make a noise, and then I'll make a noise, and then we'll just trade off back and forth.
La, 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 la. Yeah.
Okay, we're good. It's good.
Nice. There we go. Does it say how many viewers we got?
Well, you know, it doesn't really matter, but we do have a concurrent viewer. Hello, concurrent viewer. We advise you to tell someone else to view concurrently, and most importantly, don't waste your time. So whatever that means, concurrent viewer. So I got as like a graduation kind of like just sort of like a friendly gift from my parents.
Whoa. That's cool. What is it? Well, obviously it's a drum, but like...
It's called a frame drum or a tar. Like in North Africa, it'd be called a tar. That's what Remo markets it as.
That's cool.
And that one, close to $100. This one, $40. $40 drum might be the best instrument value you can get.
Yeah, seriously, jeez.
I mean, they don't sound that different, do they? Or do they?
No, honestly, they don't sound that different. And if anything, I thought the second one sounded cooler, but I think you were doing something a little more intricate with the second one.
Yeah, I was playing a more cooler rhythm. Much cooler.
Nice. So do you learn those rhythms, or do you just make them up on the spot? Like, did you learn that in a class?
The first rhythm, I made some stuff up on the first drum, and there's this one that I learned on a video about different syllables for these three fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't remember, but it definitely, that rhythm stuck in my head. And the other one is the first two rhythms from, I don't remember who it's by, but it's like a contemporary percussion piece based around Indian rhythms in 7. It's called Warthog, number 7, I think. Maybe number 5, number 7, I think. I can't remember who it's by, but oh shoot!
What?
I could probably play a version of it through the stream. A version that I made, because it's not copywritten then. Whoop. So it's good that we did the sound check. So I just want you to start thinking about what you want to do with our time after I give you the PSA. Maybe we call someone, or I don't know if you. I think there was a topic that we were hitting that we derailed, and there was also a topic that we forgot about. I can't remember what we were gonna hit.
Yes, so I think the first topic. I'm sorry I got derailed.
No worries.
Just had a spike in anxiety, but the first topic I think was, are human beings getting dumber?
Yeah.
And the second topic was impact of action, political versus personal.
Interesting.
Is that what I was? That's kind of what I was getting at, don't you?
I'm not gonna go for the iTunes thing. Yeah, and I think what I was gonna follow up in saying is, like, that's kind of where I'm at right now, is realizing that the best thing I can do is try to get really, like, as close to self-sufficiency farming as I can, like potatoes and carrots and squashes and fruit and stuff, and like you can grow wheat. I mean, you can be self-sufficient. You know, you can have goats. You can go there. You know, you can do it. And although it would in some ways limit me to one location, I could always leave. You know.
Yeah.
And like
if you know how to do it one place, you know how to do it another place.
Yeah, and then so the idea is like cheap rent. That's the idea. Cheap food, but all of it's good and better. You know. Like
well, here's where I'm at. You want to know where I'm at?
Yeah.
Build your own house.
Well, yeah, like a yurt. I'm thinking bamboo and hemp, like industrial hemp.
I'm thinking not that.
I'm thinking yurt. I want to build a yurt.
I'm thinking like cement and wood and nails and tile, but like
cement.
Yeah, super fucking metal.
Tile. I like lifting weights.
So I do.
The other, yeah, you actually do.
The thing is, so my kind of dream is like I want to find that perfect balance between modern life and like sort of indigenous life or like sustainable life. So, in the sense that like I will appreciate indoor plumbing. I quite honestly don't think saving my poop is anything I don't think I have like the audacity to do something like that. But I do want a very small house that's very environmentally friendly, you know, like low flow toilets and very minimal like water usage. And I want like the roof to be like solar panels, so that I can reduce that sort of energy consumption as much as possible, as well as I want like an acre of land to have a sustainable farm and everything like that. But the dream that I want to do with my life is the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And so just with that coffee shop, I want to bring that sort of into it too. And the customers can do the poop saving thing. That's totally cool. My toilet will just be a hole, and they can just deal with that. But I won't take a shit in that toilet, you know.
Well, it's kind of like it's one of those things that it takes a couple times around, a couple years of exposure to it, where you're like, oh, like the difference is like it's like, what are you willing to give up, you know? Like if you're willing to put in a lot of time for gardening, food growing, but and some money, a lot of time, you won't have to buy much food, you know.
Yep.
So a lot of people are like, well, that's no big deal, man. I'm making money, I'm going out to eat, I'm wearing a mask, everything's cool. But then there's people who are like, look, my time's not like that because I you know, for whatever reason, I want to have some fun or something. And so you end up kind of like, you know, you sort of see where your work goes. And the idea is you can put in less work than you might at a job if you're just growing food and you have clean water and you have clean air. You know, you should live longer and be a happier person, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah, definitely.
But what I was just trying to say is maybe you would do it if it became like if you ended up living somewhere where there wasn't plumbing, you might realize it's actually not that big of a deal because you can just cover it up and then move over. And in lots of ways, that's what people have been doing for a long time, you know. you wouldn't want to have it inside of a restaurant necessarily because then it's like a situation, you know.
Yeah, no, that was a joke when I was saying my customers can deal with that. But the other thing that I want is like in my coffee shop, I want to like, you know, like the quote unquote like farm to table kind of thing, like farm to table food. Like, what does that really mean? Like, I want mine to literally mean that I grow the food that I serve in my coffee shop,
or
at least I have a team of people who grow the food that I serve in my coffee shop. You know,
that'd be fun.
That would be so cool. And like, honestly, you're one of the people that comes up when I think of that. Like, if you want to start like that farm type scenario, I mean, like, we're thinking about living in Hawaii.
What's that?
For it, we want to do it in Hawaii.
Really?
Yeah.
Where? Or like, you don't know where?
Big Island probably is where we're first gonna check out. We're basically just gonna go to Hawaii like once a year and check out the Big Island, Maui. I haven't checked out Oahu too much, but you know, we went around Oahu a little bit.
Yeah, I want to go back there if I ever have the ability to, but it's kind of an expensive place, and it's really populated.
Yeah,
I mean, I imagine there's good ways to do it, but my problem is like, you know, I haven't figured it out. I'm kind of worried about living in like an island in the middle of the ocean for some reason. Like if you had your self-sustaining farm, you'd be pretty good. But it's still kind of a scary thought. Maybe it's safer. I don't know.
No, it's absolutely terrifying. Like,
just
starting your own business
psychologically,
is one of the most
like being on an island is being on an island is kinda...
Wait, are we
So if you had a coffee shop on an island, you might not have access to coffee. But if you grew your own coffee, it'd be kind of cool.
Well, Hawaii is home to some of the most
Kona.
Like Kona, yeah.
Kona coffee.
Kona coffee.
Kona coffee.
Locally grown, locally roasted, locally sourced food.
Yeah, that's cool. I have a thing about the Big Island, having not been there. All I've heard that sounds like a negative is just sometimes there's volcanic fog. It's called Vog, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like the fires here. It's like, like that's a kind of a big blow of clean air, you know?
Yeah, I didn't know about that. I would bet that Kelsey doesn't know about that either. I'm sure like they go during like tourist season, and I'm sure
Yeah.
tourist season is not when there's volcanic fog.
And it flows over to the other islands and stuff.
Really?
It's not like an end all like failure, but I think people do get it's kind of like, you know, the Salton Sea.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard of Slab City?
I don't think so.
It's like there's this place called East Jesus where this person took a bunch of hay and matter and stuff and made a big art project, and people started living out next to it, just living there, squatting on land. And now it's like a functioning...
I have heard of that.
Yeah, and so that area, the Salton Sea, which is the ancient mouth of the Colorado River that they derailed, they moved it over. So all of that, you know, most biodiverse type of habitat on planet Earth, the estuary and all the salt water mixing with the fresh water of what is like the fucking Nile, you know, like a major center, like the Mississippi or whatever it is. It's like a main, like a highway, you know. It's a really big deal, and they just cut it off, and now this swamp was formed, and it's evaporating at such a rate that all of the noxious like gases and off-gassing that's happening is causing people asthma and stuff. And so that's why I say, like, you know, what is it? Spring water? I don't know. Like, where is the clean air? Where's the clean water? And it's like, it's weird because the more that I think from that perspective, I get kind of frustrated, and you get this weird like I don't want to be like I don't feel that special. Like, you kind of realize like everyone's just living in bad air and bad water. So I don't really know. Maybe the answer is like between, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, what I always say is at the end of the day, we're all going to die because the sun gives us cancer, you know?
The sun?
The sun. The sun kills us. We need to live by the sun, die by the sun. And, like, basically, so, like, there really is no place, like, gosh, this freaking light. There we go. So I really don't think there is a perfect place. I think when you're trying to determine the perfect place to live, air quality is definitely one of those things that kind of get factored in to the thought process and like that. And for me, it's a pretty high up there. But
I think it's same.
Quite honestly, like, you're not going to have great air quality almost anywhere. Like, the world's constantly being polluted, and we've kind of ruined that. Like I said, humans are getting stupider. We've polluted our air to the point where we're toxifying ourselves. Like, we're killing ourselves faster in the long run, but right now it's okay because we got a bunch of pills and machines that keep us alive longer.
Well, what I was going to say earlier that I forgot about was a lot of the time what you're after is kind of next to the thing you were aiming for, you know? Like, you get there and you're like, oh, like you kind of realize it was the right direction, but it wasn't the thing you were aiming at, or it's over the horizon or something. You can't see it, you know? And I feel that way with humanity, where clearly that's not what it's about then. If it's a process and it's going the way it's going because of the fact that it's a process and it's not just like it comes back to the thing with the I Ching where you'd think it's just 50-50, but it's weird how there's these anomalous events that you can't repeat that people always have noticed, and they're like, well, wait a sec, there's these events that you can't really explain, and, you know, like, maybe what it's about isn't necessarily smarts, you know? Maybe it's not about intelligence. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean...
Maybe it's about the opposite, you know?
It's about dim-wittedness?
Yeah, maybe it's like ignorance is bliss and everyone floats, you know? And they don't really touch down and they go, oh, this is important high stakes. They're just kind of like... they're just kind of like...
Yeah,
and then it's like
yeah.
they're dead, and then
Um,
they have to go around again and again and again, and then eventually they're like, oh, this is just a cycle. Might as well take care of some business here, and then like even that's just the beginning, you know. So
yeah.
I think it's okay if we fade away as a species, but I'd like to think that like people are gonna get off the rock, and that's a lot of people's goal is to get out of Earth, and I think it's kind of silly and not worth it. So I'm looking to be proven wrong, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, the whole idea of, like, we need to get off of Earth is kind of like, I mean, that kind of just makes me think of the idea where, remember when I was 19 and I always just wanted to leave. I just wanted to get out of town. I always just wanted to, like, life sucks here. I need to start new someplace else, blah, 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 you know?
Yeah.
I think it's just like that on the largest scale that we can comprehend. So, like, humanity as a whole has, like, essentially started ruining this earth that we're on, and it's almost to the point where we can't reverse it, you know? Like, the United States has trillions of dollars of debt with China, and there's communism, like, creating concentration camps and corruption all over the world, and then there's also, like, quote-unquote democracies that are subjugating vast amounts of people, and like there's all these people that are just never going to get better. There's so much chaos and tragedy on this planet that nobody's really ever going to, like, we're not going to pull out of it. I don't, like, call me a pessimist, but I don't think we're going to be able to reverse it or pull out of it at all. And I think people want to leave Earth for that purpose. They want to find, like, oh, we're destroying this, we need to go to find some other planet. But, like, the planet isn't the issue. It's humans that are the issue. If we go and find another planet, we're going to have all of the same fucking problems on that planet that we did this planet.
Yeah.
You know?
And
so
more.
It's like, you can't run away from yourself.
You can't run away from yourself.
Is that a song lyric? I would
Bob
not
Marley.
be surprised if that was in like a million songs.
Bob
but, like,
Marley.
Like,
Did I yell?
I think that's just like, you can't run away from yourself on the largest scale. Like, trying to find a new planet to inhabit. Why? So we can continue being like.
We're trying to get away from
you know?
our rat likeness, our turtle likeness, our river likeness, our earthiness. We're trying to get rid of our humanness, you know? We're trying to download our consciousness. Like, we are trying to transcend physical space, you know? Like, it's a weird urge, but that's where we're going, and that's where we've been going. The difference is that what I always say is the only way out is in, you know? Everyone's trying to go out. And if we reached peace and like a certain level of like eye to eye, then we'd accept our inevitable death as a species, as an individual, and what we would do is most likely what I think would happen is a miracle would happen. And people don't understand that. You were talking about aliens, but the resonance of the planet is really sad and bad and like sick and nauseated and brown and stuff, you know? But if it was like pushed through into a next octave and everyone was like, oh, I feel it now, and there's a little more empathy for the planet and people kind of cared a little bit, maybe the aliens would come and then they would show us the way. And then it would be this re-entry, the Jesus coming back, right? It's this impulse we've been having since the beginning that we probably had access to, and now we've lost access and we're trying to reach it again. And my theory isn't Elon Musk going to Mars, because the thing is when you get out there, it's not going to be an elitist colony of whatever people want to think it is. It's going to be really unpleasant. Like, you can't beat the barrels on the ocean, the Pope's living room, you know?
Yeah.
And you can't beat, like, canyons and rivers and stuff and mountains. And you can't beat the gravity on Earth. You can't beat the atmosphere. But you can put a nuclear sun over Mars and cover it in mycelium and, like, resonate the mycelium with low base frequency and just terraform that place. And the time it takes, and we grab the water on the moon or whatever people want to say, and then it's a video game. But I just worry that that's, like you said, an extension of get me out of here, like, can't run away, you know?
Yeah. That's really interesting the way you put that about, like, the miracle that would happen. Like, maybe if we all just went in and looked in and then the aliens would see that and essentially think that they would come and help us out and show us the way. That kind of brought me back to, like, there's this saying, I don't know if it's an actual phrase from the Bible, but it's used in a lot of bluegrass, like old timey, like gritty bluegrass. And it's I know it's specifically from a Devil Makes Three song, and it's the good Lord helps those that help themselves. And so, like, when looking at that on like a smaller level, you can think that,
oh, it's like a riddle.
you know, it is a riddle. It's a very strange riddle too. And like looking at that on the smaller scale or the more immediate scale, like thinking of just the present, how I see it is like good behavior is contagious, or it kind of snowballs. So it's like if you start to eat healthy, you know, then you're like, oh, I've been eating healthier, like now I'm feeling good, I've got this energy, I kind of want to do stuff with this energy. Okay, I'm gonna run. Oh, now that I'm running, I noticed that like this part of my neighborhood is actually really cool because it's got all of these awesome like environmental like happenstances, I guess for lack of a better term, that I find really interesting. And what they are is birds. Oh, and the birds are really cool because when you look closer into them, they have homes. And now that I see that they have homes, I notice that we need to actually do something so that these birds can keep doing what they're doing. And so I need to start, you know, like it snowballs into something better. That's a very arbitrary example, but it can happen in a million, billion different ways. And so the good Lord helps those that help themselves. That man is helping himself, but what people are interpreting as the good Lord is going to be the influence and the drive and the motivation and the power that he's feeling from accomplishing those good deeds. Now, what can happen then on the larger scale, like the futuristic scale that you kind of brought up, is like, say humanity just decided to do that as a whole, and everybody started actually doing what was best for them and chasing their actual dreams and doing what was actually good for them, the world, and those around them. Maybe that's when God comes.
Yeah.
That's when he actually comes to help us out. When everybody on earth decides to help themselves.
I mean, I'm all for it. You brought up, you know, Christianity and Jesus or something earlier, and it definitely made me think, or I brought it up because of aliens. But if you look into like creation myths and all these things of every culture's creation myth, you get this yearning for the other or the alien or a parent that's lost, you know, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like we've been saying it so much, like the end of the world, that it's gonna happen, and it has happened. It's just it's like a flood story. It's part of the subconscious, you know. Yeah, many prophets.
Yeah.
So I went through all my clothing, and I have 4 pairs. I have 4 shirts and 3 pairs of pants. And one of the pairs of pants is ripped, and I tie-dyed in purple.
Okay.
Yeah. So and they're made of. These are linen. They're not organic linen, so they're probably not necessarily like. I'm not sure what that means. And then I have all those shirts. I have the 4 organic cotton. And then I have some like weird pants that are like cotton, organic cotton, 30% and 70% hemp that I found on the side of the road.
Nice.
And all of my other clothing, which is a lot, I have too much clothing, is a lot of it's cotton t-shirts and socks. But yeah, I just started researching the way that, because I saw this, I started watching these documentaries on people in foreign countries, children who live in trash dumps. They just salvage materials and all of this, and the way that the textiles on those rivers, the textile industries, there's this person on Vice who was exposing how they put water back in to the rivers that go, you know, from Indonesia directly into the ocean, like a small island. and Big River, you know, like Milwaukee River. And, like, you know, that's downtown Milwaukee the same, you know? And, like, Chicago is like that, Cleveland. Like, these cities, like, you know, like, there's these old buildings on the side of the rivers that used to be used where they dump stuff back in. And so this Vice documentary, I think it was Indonesia, the guy goes in, he tests the water, and it's awful. It's horrible. And that's what they're using. It's literally like surrounding a rice farmer. I'll send you the link. It's pretty crazy. And they test his rice, and they're testing everything. It's all full of lead and all this stuff that, like, everyone's basically poisoning themselves for economic benefit. And I started to realize, like, look at myself, and I was like, wait a sec, why haven't I thought about this with the clothing? Like, literally the textile industry, China, India, you know, Nepal, I think I've seen, Bangladesh, I've seen, like, you look at your clothing, it's from all over the earth, you know? And they're just, it's like, so that's where I started to go, is like, what if you could grow industrial hemp and process it like Rumpelstiltskin style, and just kind of like knit up some pants, and that's a level of self-sufficiency that I just thought was, like, hilarious. I thought that was hilarious. Like, that I'm sitting here with, this is like J. Crew from the 70s, cotton. Yeah. One of my favorite shirts. But why is this not...
I remember that shirt from high school, actually.
Yeah, this is probably no good. This probably, like, it's probably not good for my skin. So then I looked it up, and it causes cancer, a bunch of the stuff. And then it ruins the earth, it causes cancer. From wearing the clothing, it causes cancer. If you wear polyester, you get, like, lung problems. Like, dude, I was going on it for, like, a day, and then I just decided, like, I think it'd be fun to try to only wear... like, to sell most of my clothing and just buy, like, 2 more pairs of pants, you know?
Yeah, that's so crazy. Like, that's something that I had never thought of. Like, the clothing that we're wearing being toxic and actually being something that kills us, you know? Like,
and it's all over us.
Yeah, it literally completely covers. I'm covered head to toe in polyester right now. Like,
it's bad for your lungs.
Feel like, that's crazy that it's... I'm sure it's bad for it's
crazy.
Like, and
my favorite shirt.
What's interesting?
It's polyester.
So, like, I don't even really know what to do about that, because, like,
well, you can't.
Are there any, like, companies that you know of that actually serve, like, sustainably sourced, like, not toxic clothing? Or is, like, all hemp clothing good for you?
No.
Or all hemp clothing, like...
Organic cotton, which is what I'm justifying as good, that I have, isn't good. It's like organic food. There's still... It's like they can hide behind it. They can use once removed resources that aren't organic, you know?
Yeah, so the thing with USDA certified organic is the same thing with cage free and farm fresh and all natural and stuff like that. Like,
organic?
It's literally something, they just buy it. They buy a sticker to put on it.
Organic.
So, like, legitimate organic food is so much better for you than GMO or non-organic food. Now, obviously, GMOs are 100% necessary to feed the world. But if you can choose to not consume GMOs and consume legitimate, like, the farmer food, then that's what's going to be best for you. But, like, yeah, USDA organic is such bullshit. Like, it's so strange. It's hard in the coffee industry, too, because people will just come into the coffee shop and be like, is your coffee certified organic? And it's just like, no, but, like, it is organic. Like,
yeah, certified.
The farms that we source them from are using organic methods. It just doesn't have the sticker.
Yeah.
And that's, like, a really hard thing to explain to people, because technically I can't say it's organic because it's not USDA certified organic. But the coffee farms that you work with and everything are. You know, like, most of them are. Most coffee is organic. If it's not from Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, Folgers, or any of that shit, it's probably organic.
Well, the reason is because I think they're afraid that once they say it's organic, that they're actually in a different legal situation, Where if they're proving
Mhm.
it's not, it's a problem because I worked on a fruit farm like last summer for like a couple weekends, and I was like, "Are you guys organic?" Because they sell at the farmers market, and they were like, "We're organic, but we didn't certify it because it's just it's stressful, you know." There's like an
Yeah.
extra element, which is like that's incentivizing the opposite. So things need to evolve, you know, because it's a good step,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah, and it's expensive too. Like I'm sure they don't want to spend the extra
Yeah.
money to put a sticker on all of their like, heads of lettuce to say like this lettuce is organic. We paid for it to say that it's organic. Like I don't know if you ever saw Super Size Me.
Yeah.
That same dude made another Super Size Me. It's called Super Size Me 2 Chicken Edition.
Oh God.
And basically what he does is he opens his own restaurant, sort of like a Chick-fil-A type restaurant with like crispy chicken sandwiches. And the idea is like chicken is what's known to be healthy. So it starts out with like he has all of these interviews with people saying like, is meat healthy? And people are like, well, I'm not so sure about like red meat and like bacon and stuff, but like chicken's healthy. And it was just everybody saying like chicken's healthy, chicken's healthy, chicken's healthy, chicken's healthy, you know?
They're like parrots.
And,
Parrots healthy. Parrots healthy.
and so what he does is he opens his own chicken restaurant and he starts showing all of the tactics that restaurants like McDonald's, Burger King, Chick-fil-A, like, and there's also this undertone that like, oh, McDonald's has gotten better over the years. It's gotten healthier over the years. Burger King's not as bad for you now because of like whatever, it's evolved. Like people are more health conscious and shit. Literally what they're doing is right before the picture of the double bacon cheeseburger, extra mayonnaise, orange sauce covered in fried onion rings, they have a fork with lettuce and tomato and onion on it saying fresh salads and then burger. And it tricks your mind into thinking that they're getting healthier. It's like this subconscious tick that they put in you, like green, red, and like all the vegetable colors, and then boom. And then what are they getting? They're not getting the fucking salad. And if they are, they're covering it in 4,000 calories of ranch dressing. They're getting the double bacon cheeseburger, but they're
10,000.
healthier for whatever reason. But then the next thing that he gets into is all of the certifications that you can get. He literally gets every single certification you can get. He has these crispy chicken sandwiches that are organic, cage-free, farm fresh, like open pasture, like like every single certification in the book, and it's literally 10,000 chickens dumped into a giant like dark farm box, like one of those huge chicken coops that you see, like whatever football field of a chicken coop. And to get all of those certifications, he put a 3 square foot outside thing surrounded by a fence. And he was able to get all of those certifications.
Whoa.
Even though none of those chickens ever saw the light of day. They were like cage-free, pasture-raised, farm-fresh, organic, sustainably sourced, like,
Wow.
All because he just had this little gate.
Wow. Yeah, that's the fear, is that if you play by the rules, you kind of realize like how broken the rules are.
Yeah, and that's another thing where, like, I don't know if you saw Donald Trump's tax returns. Like, people were freaking out and trying to say that Donald Trump. Well, first off, it looked like he was broke. Like, that was the initial take on it. It was like, oh my gosh, he's broke. He's like literally a character playing a billionaire because he paid no taxes.
Yeah.
But really, what he did was he just like played the system, and like it's not technically Donald Trump's fault that he was able to do this, but he was like a piece of shit for following through with it. But he was technically following the rules, being a million or billionaire and paying almost no federal taxes.
I heard about
He
that
was able to
offhand.
just write all of that off. Yeah, he was able to just write all of that off while following the rules.
Well, what's weird is that it is a little like now we've entered the paradox because they're not following the rules. If you look at the rules, they're like maybe another way of saying it is that the rules could just be wrong, and that they're set up so that you have like go throughs, you know. So it's kind of like saying you have to cheat. There's no like you. It's like saying you kind of have to do your own job if you want it done right, you know.
Yeah. Or you gotta get really good at showing people how to do it. That's something that I really need to learn how to do, as wanting to be a business owner.
Yeah.
When I was a manager, I had that mentality where it's like, also I had really shit people hired for me. Like half the people working for me were high school girls, who were just like, I don't want to be a barista, you know. But I don't want to clean toilets or sweep or mop or anything. I want to stand by the bar, and when cute 19-year-old boys like come in, I want them to think I might be legal to fuck, you know. And so like that's kind of what I was dealing with, and so I was in a situation where like, if you wanted something done right, do it yourself. And I ended up pushing myself to working like 50 or 60 hours a week, and like 10 to 20 of those hours were just like unpaid because I didn't trust anybody to do my job. And because I was trying to do all of it, I felt like I didn't have time to show anybody how to actually do it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I think is really important if you're looking to start managing, or if you're like wondering why you can't necessarily like move up in the management ladder. Like, check your mentality. Is your mentality like it has to be you doing it, or is your mentality like I need to get good at showing people how to do it, you know?
Yeah, it's like in music when you have people that are really talented, but they're not good team workers, which basically means they're not good at playing music with you.
Yeah.
That it's more than half, I think. It's just keeping the rhythm, you know, like not like listening, you know, responding. It's important. Be there. It can be fun to work.
Do you remember that? Yeah, it totally could, and I think it's fun to work most of the time.
Yeah.
But do you remember that band we saw that one time where we talked about how they were arguing?
Oh yeah.
With their instruments.
I actually think about that a lot. I forgot that's what it came from.
Yeah.
That was That was Whitewater Ramble at the
Miramar. Yeah, I think it was the opening band for Whitewater Ramble.
Oh yeah.
And I remember because there were like these girls like hula hooping in front of us while we were like we sat up, and then there were like 2 or 3 girls like hula hooping to it. And I remember you and I just kept looking at each other, and then looking at the hula hoops, and then looking at the band, and just being like, this is not a vibe right now. Like, none of like
vibe is everything.
So aggressive. Everything is so aggressive right now. Because it's like all of the girls hula hooping were like trying to out hula hoop each other, while all of the people on the stage trying to like play their instruments were like I just would picture the mandolin player like trying to like step up in front of the mic and be like, and then like the fiddle player like bumping them out and like shoving their like fiddle into the microphone, like, you know, it was a total fight.
Well, that was also your like interpretation, there's multiple ways to look at it, because that is also like maybe they aren't maybe they're just doing that because they've seen other bands doing that, and that's part of the bluegrass thing, is like you all provide rhythm around the mic, but then someone goes up to it in solos. That's like part of the bluegrass thing, and having like solos in itself, and having like repeating, like the way that we do music and all of this, it's coming from this perspective of like being put on a pedestal, like as a performer, as a musician, instrument interface. And what's interesting is when you kind of look at music from maybe a less human objective point and look at it as sound, you know? And I feel like
what's up? Yeah, sounds good. I will. Yeah, I got it.
You got a shovel?
The rule has been broken once again.
What?
I gotta move my car.
Okay.
So I'll be back in like 10 minutes or so.
Wait,
5.
Why do you have to move your car? Because of the snow?
Yeah, it's gonna snow and my dad has to like go to some church thing.
Okay, do you want me to leave it on and we'll do like an intermission and then we come back and do calls, or what do you think?
Why don't we, because I'm actually kind of hungry, so why don't we just take a 20-minute breather? I can just like slap together a PB&J, eat it, and then get some water and stuff, and then we can do calls when we go back on the line.
Okay, and I'm gonna do the same thing, eat some food and all that. If you feel like you don't want to go back on, that's cool, but see you soon.
Sweet.